Without a doubt, economic diplomacy remains central to our foreign policy. Kenya's position as a regional financial hub, backed by a strong banking sector and hosting the largest World Bank station outside Washington, underscores its importance. Recent engagements, including the African Development Bank and IDA summits, have emphasized the critical role of the private sector, youth, and civil society in economic diplomacy. When I was requested by the World Bank to host the IDA negotiations in Nairobi, when I was requested by the President of the Africa Development Bank to also host their summit in Nairobi, it demonstrated Kenya's new profile as a destination and as a voice for economic diplomacy. We must build on it, we must leverage on it, and whatever it is that we are doing, whether it is with the World Bank or the Africa Development Bank, must eventually accrue benefits to the people of Kenya. Our foreign policy must, therefore, advance the strategy of creating more and better trade and economic opportunities for industries and enterprises, with a special focus on the empowerment of small and medium enterprises and the inclusion of marginalized groups such as young people, women, and persons living with disability. In so doing, our foreign policy dovetails with a bottom-up economic transformation agenda. To benefit from this complementarity and alignment, it is time for us to be imaginative in order to enhance the capacity and the efficacy of our missions abroad and use them to promote trade and promote investment and position Kenya as appropriately as they can. Our nation's reputation as a dependable peace and security actor is a source of pride. Kenya has established strong credentials in the area of regional, Pan-African, and global peace and security engagements and operations. Our long-standing tradition of effective peacemaking, peace building, and peacekeeping has defined us as a force of common good in our region, in our continent, and globally. And sustaining this positive legacy is an important strategic priority for us. I expect the ministry to continuously focus in this space. It is the reason why we are engaged in all the interventions. Now in South Sudan, we're also engaged in the main Sudan. We are engaged in Somalia. We've just come out of DRC. And the global community approached Kenya to take our place in Haiti. It was not because of any other reason. It was because Kenya has positioned itself as a country that understands peacemaking, peacekeeping, and peace diplomacy has been, over time, a place where Kenya excelled. And it is our intention, and I'm sure you will put into the finer detail of this document on how Kenya can leverage on that space to make sure that we not only play our role, but we also profile our country positively. This is why, at the moment, Kenya is leading the UN-approved multinational security support mission in Haiti and mediating peace efforts in different parts of our region, including South Sudan, as I have said, Sudan, and across the region. We are determined to remain a peaceful nation, at peace with ourselves first, at peace with our neighbors, and also working with friends across the world. Under the Shirika Plan, which is another huge invention of Kenya, our innovative refugee program, we aim to transform camps into integrated settlements, setting a global standard for sustainable and affirmative humanitarian response. I had, for example, an engagement with the UN representative of Malta's refugees, and they are working with other countries that have refugees, learning from Kenya how to integrate refugees and how people who have lived in a country for 30 years cannot continue to stay in camps, how we can integrate them into society and how we can use them as a force of good. And we are making huge strides in that space. I hope this policy document will capture the innovative measures we have taken with our refugees, use them to profile our country, use them for Malta's diplomacy so that we can contribute to the welfare of not just refugees in our country, but refugees living everywhere in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not new to climate diplomacy. Our country has a long and proud tradition of environmental diplomacy that dates back to our earliest years as a republic. By 1972 Copenhagen Summit, our voice and stand with respect to ecological stewardship, biodiversity conservation, and environmental sustainability was distinct and well-defined. We have sustained efforts to consolidate our role as a champion for conservation in the face of relentless global warming, which has ushered in unprecedented climate change. It has become imperative that we take a strong stand to promote urgent and effective climate action locally and globally. As chair of the Committee of African Heads of State on Climate Change, I had the honor, as I informed you earlier, of co-hosting the inaugural Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi, which produced the landmark Nairobi Declaration, a collective position of Africa's pathway to climate action, sustainable investment, and green industrialization. Kenya's role in shaping global climate conversation is a testament to our commitment and our dedication to Malta's climate. Kenya's engagement in global health diplomacy is also guided by lessons learned from COVID-19 pandemic and our commitment to enhancing inclusion and equity by promoting public and private investment to expand access to quality healthcare, address disparities, and strengthen domestic health systems while partnering to address pandemics and emerging public health challenges, not just in Kenya, not just in our region, but globally. As a national policy priority, Kenya is committed to sustaining its strong contribution to deepening regional integration through various initiatives, including the accelerated implementation of the East African Treaty and protocols, as well as promoting the free movement of people, goods, and services across borders. This commitment extends to our obligation under the Common Markets for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, the Tripartite Free Trade Agreement that again came into force this year in May after meeting the threshold, and our efforts to actualize the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. To this end, we have adopted a visa-free policy and the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System to facilitate free movement and promote intra-Africa trade. Let me say this with clarity, that we have championed, we've taken the front line in making sure that Africa trades together, works together, and we ease movement within this continent. It is our voice and the recognition of Kenya's contribution in Malta's diplomacy around African integration that led the Africa Union in the 37th summit in Addis to ask Kenya to lead the way in reforming the Africa Union to make it a fit-for-purpose organization that can speak to the interests of Africa, the aspirations of the African people. And I want to promise you that I am putting together the report after meeting several stakeholders, and in February, I will be filing the first report to see how we can make the Africa Union a fit-for-purpose organization to drive our integration, to drive our investment and trade, and to make sure that we position our continent, as we position Kenya, in the right trajectory as we look into the future. On continental leadership and governance,